Those of you hearing about education support for the first time, hello and welcome. It's great to have you join us. Any of you who already know about us, great to have you back. And as I said, thank you for joining us today for our webinar on better staff wellbeing, how education support can help. Today we want to talk to you about how education support can help schools to work to improve staff wellbeing, and we're joined by Heather Phillips, who's Executive Head Teacher at Blakesley Hall Primary School in Birmingham. So thank you for joining us, Heather.
Hi, thank you, welcome.
And we will be talking to her about the approach taken at Blakesley Hall to staff wellbeing, how they've enhanced it with support and services from education support. But before we talk to Heather, which is undoubtedly going to be the most entertaining part of the session, I'm just going to start by talking through a summary of what education support do. And it is a summary because there's so much that we do. We are the only UK charity focused on improving the mental health and wellbeing of education staff all across the UK. And we've been around for almost 150 years. So we understand education, which is a really important point. We try and achieve our mission in a number of ways. So firstly, we have a helpline. It's a free helpline available to all education staff. Really, it's about encouraging people to talk, whether that's just be people who want to have a chat or advice on something, people who want support with a serious mental health challenge, any raft of things. The helpline is available for that support and is staffed by BACP accredited counsellors. And that's a service that's available 24/7, 365 days a year. As I said, the focus is we just want people to talk, provide some individuals with a place to go and have a conversation when they need to. We run a grant service, which provides a really important short-term financial support to education staff, something that's vital, as everyone I'm sure can imagine, in the current climate. We run a fully funded school leaders service. So that's a peer support programme and individual telephone support, as I said, fully funded programmes available to school leaders right across England and Wales. We do an extensive amount of research, awful lots of research, including our annual Teacher Wellbeing Index. Much of that research drives some of the other work that we do around the mental health and wellbeing of education staff. And we do what we can to influence policy around education staff mental health and wellbeing, and often use evidence from this research to drive some of the conversations that we want to have. And then finally, our employee assistance programme, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Now, for anyone who's not aware, an employee assistance programme is a paid for service, and our service is available only for schools and education staff. And it's there to support schools to support their staff with mental health and wellbeing. It's a comprehensive service, and some of the things it includes is a dedicated helpline. And that might be support, as we touched on earlier, with mental health and wellbeing. It could be financial support, legal support, any other support that's needed, almost like a one-stop shop. Whether it's been a cat stuck up a tree or some really serious challenges you're facing in life, the helpline is there to support the staff. As an extension of that, we can provide fast track access to counselling. So that's up to 6 sessions of solution-focused therapy. And incredibly, that's a service that's available for individuals within 10 days of that initial phone call into the helpline service, which is really powerful. We have some other additional services within the programme as well. So, for example, there's a line manager coaching service, just provide that short-term support for an individual who might be having a difficult conversation with a member of staff that day. We have a mindfulness programme designed to support people to manage those low levels of stress to try and stop those challenges escalating into bigger issues. Services such as our computerised cognitive behavioural therapy service, and access to a support website with a raft of resources, guides, articles, all designed to provide support to the individuals accessing the service. And this is the service that Heather uses with the staff at Blakesley Hall. And it's much better that we hear from her around how this is fitted in to the school's overarching wellbeing programme. So Heather, I guess as a starting point, if you want to give us a bit of an introduction into yourself and into your school.
Yeah, sure. Okay, hi everyone, my name's Heather Phillips. I'm head teacher at a large primary school in the east of Birmingham, 630 children, quite high levels of deprivation around the school where we are. I've been here for nearly 18 years now, and I have a staff numbering around 85 to 90 staff in total. So yeah, that's who we are.
Brilliant. And when we're talking about your approach as a school to staff wellbeing, when did you start developing what you would consider to be a staff wellbeing plan?
I think formally, probably after one of the services that was provided by Education Support. So I was part of a network of head teachers, sessions called Headspace, where we would get together a group of head teachers and kind of have sessions around our own wellbeing, the challenges that we were facing as head teachers. And part of that provision was free access to education support. And so during the time that I was on that programme, I thought, okay, this is something that would be really useful for staff. We'd always had something that was provided by the local authority.
Okay.
But what I felt was that it needed a bit of a relaunch, really. Nobody was using the local authority provision. And it kind of felt a little bit as if it was, because it was linked to the local authority and it was something that the school had always done, that I don't know, people just didn't seem to have confidence in it.
Okay, interesting.
So out of the Headspace group, I had a discussion with my leaders and with my governors, and we said, okay, let's look at a provision that would meet the needs of all of our staff. So yeah, so it was the start of a plan with the governors. At the heart of it, really, we've got some really supportive governors who were very much invested in the well-being, firstly, of the leaders in school, and always asked about the well-being of our leaders, but then obviously wanting to look at what we could do for a whole school. So yeah, plan is the right word. We do have a plan.
Yeah, brilliant. And when you first looked to launch that service, and obviously you touched on you had that support from the governors, what steps did you take initially to introduce that to staff and to launch that to staff?
Because I was already linked to education support through the Headspace programme, it was easy, very straightforward. So we were put in contact with one of your consultants, Mark Saunders, who came in and spoke to the staff and just introduced the provision to them. And I felt that was important, rather than me just saying, okay, we bought this thing, here's the number if you ever need it. I felt it was really important that somebody came from education support and spoke to the staff about the range of provision, what it could do for them. So we had somebody come in and run a couple of sessions with staff about the provision.
Brilliant. And what was the initial response from staff? Because you mentioned that there was a reluctance to engage with the previous local authority service. How did they engage with the new service? How do you think things were different from the previous service into the new one?
I think initially, because it was a launch for everybody went home with a number and a little credit card sized thing with a number on it. I think it was agreed that this was a really good thing by staff members, but again, it's moving from that, it being a good idea, to it being something that people will use and want to use. And so it was, as things were coming up for people, or people had questions, and particularly leaders, and what you were talking about in terms of the leadership support as well, it just became a natural course to say, have you thought about phoning education support? Yeah. Here's the number. One of the things that Mark Saunders said to us, the consultant, said that he encouraged us to put the number in our phones, in our mobile phones, because at the point at which you feel that you need help, you won't be able to find the number. You'll not remember where you put the credit card. You'll not remember where you've written it down. So that very practical thing was something that a lot of people did. So it was easy to say, okay, have you thought about calling education support? And over time, it just became a very natural thing in terms of supporting our staff, whether it be a return to work meeting, whether it be somebody struggling that we knew something that was going on for them at home. It was all people saying, okay, have you tried education support? And as it became, as people used it more, they would come back to each other and be saying, oh, that was a really good, I phoned them up, they answered straight away, this happened for me, they gave me good advice. And then it just spread, word of mouth, and the positive outcomes that people were having from using the service.
Brilliant. And I know we talked before this session about how an EAP is a really valuable service, but it only forms a part of, I guess, a wider wellbeing ecosystem at the school. Where does that fit in, and what else do you have as a school to supplement that EAP?
Well, like I said, I think we've always had really proactive governors.
Yeah.
So, you know, right at the start of my headship years and years ago, we had a governor who took it, you know, it's quite boisterous and enthusiastic about his role in making sure that my well-being was being taken care of and that my work-life balance was good. And it was almost, you know, he took it as his mission to make sure that he would ask me how things were going. But that was kind of, you know, that kind of spread out to all governors and to all leaders initially, like I said. So it was understood by governors that it was their responsibility to make sure that as leaders that well-being was good for us, and that our work-life balance was something that was looked at regularly. We have, I suppose, speaking more recently, we have a trained senior mental health lead now, a year trained, and that person has also done a mindfulness course, looking at mindfulness in schools, in primary school in particular, but staff for the children. So we now have a wellbeing plan that spans all parts of the community, including our parents, and that plan is published and it's reviewed by you know, different stakeholders. So it is an ecosystem. It's quite layered. There's a layered approach to it. I think it was, I suppose, the test of it and the effectiveness of it was tested during COVID, I suppose, because what we did while we were absent from each other was made sure we almost had like a pyramid approach to making sure that we were taking care of each other and were aware of what people were going through. Yeah. So everybody, as leaders, we all had 2 or 3 people that we were checking with regularly, which I know lots of schools did these kinds of things. But that has carried on. It's kind of something that people have appreciated, that actually, you know, you're in a triad or in a group of 4, and that those people are caring for you and are aware of your well-being and will signpost if need be, or support as much as they can. So it's something that is talked about a lot in school. And as I was saying to you last week, we have just completed a staff wellbeing survey, just to, again, check in terms of how things are going. You know, if the things that we think are working well, are they actually working well on the ground? And because it's something that we talk about, you know, we've never, even with the EAP, we've never just kind of left it and said it's there, we bought into it, we paid the money, get on, you know, if you remember, phone them up. It's something that's talked about all the time. You know, I'm very proactive in terms of talking about it. When it's part of our induction program, when new staff join the school, they get their little credit card with the number on it. This is for you, with the flyer, with all the services that it's provided. So yeah, it's something that is absolutely part of who we are and what we provide for all staff. And that, you know, I think the thing that is also really important for us is that it's for all staff. It's not just, okay, your senior leaders, you know, are the ones that are working hard and all stuff. Actually, our lunchtime supervisors, they get the same, you know, they come for induction. Here's a number, you may need it, you may never need it, but it's for you as well. TAs, office staff, everybody knows that this is part of the provision for them.
Okay, that's brilliant. And how do you, I know you touched on a moment ago about doing the staff survey. How do you explore further evolution of how you support staff? Because it's important, isn't it, not just to sit back and think, oh, great, we've nailed it, we've done it now. How do you continue to try and involve that the support that you offer for staff?
I think coming out of the survey, there were a couple of things. Like, it's hot off the press. We've only just got it today. I mean, we're looking at it as leaders today. Out of the survey will come some key things. I mean, while it's an anonymous survey, you know, you've got your percentages, and where there's something that we think, okay, this looks like it's something that we need to address, we then go back out to staff and say, you know, try and kind of work out how big is the problem, are there ways of fixing this, is there something that we've missed? So because it's something that we say to staff, it's owned by everybody. You know, it's not just we are doing well-being for you, and this is what we will provide for you. You know, we want you to go home early, one day a week. It's not that, it's deeper than that. So it's, okay, you've said in the survey, this thing isn't working for you as a group of staff. Okay, we're going to focus on it. Any ideas about how this can improve? So it's a constant conversation. that's really come out of the training from the senior mental health lead training from the DFE that they funded. The idea of having a plan, and that's a working document and owned by everybody in school. It's come from there, really.
Yeah.
We've also got, we've just started last term, our pupil wellbeing ambassadors, as we're calling them. So our year 4s and year 5s, got a group of children who are on the committee in terms of wellbeing and mental health wellness for the children and for families. So it's touching everybody.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know one of the things we've talked about in the past is that well-being it's nebulous in a way, isn't it? There's no scale of 1 to 10 for that, and so how do you typically measure the impact of the EAP? Sort of, I guess, anecdotally, is that just from the conversations you have as staff and the fact that it's not just you pushing it, it's across the whole school, that everyone will share that with each other?
I think it is a difficult one, because how do you measure it? Like you say, there's an element of well, not an element. It is confidential. When people phone the helpline or use the service, it is confidential. So there's no questionnaire to fill in. Have you ever used this service? What happened? I suppose our staff are very open with each other. Not everybody, obviously, but there's people don't feel very happy saying, I phoned them up and they were really helpful and they've advised me to do X, Y, and Z. So there's that kind of anecdotal stuff that I hear and see going on. I think that just as you watch people, really, again, on a data level, we do get a usage report. So that's one of the good things that we do have from the service. Again, confidential, but we get, how many people in the 12-month period phoned up, was it triage to counselling? Was it, so we know that it's being used, and we're not just paying for nobody to use it. What I see as head teacher is that, when I do my return to work meetings, obviously I know when people have been off sick. I generally know what's going on for people, more so than other people. And so it's seeing the impact of all that we're doing on whether their wellness improves and whether their well-being improves. And part of the EAP from education support, one of the things that kind of really drew me in was the fact that your provision allows people to get back on with their work. So you help us deal with our issues, whether that be something that's, financial, relationship, work-wise. We can bring those to you. You can help us with those so that we can get on and do our job. And that's the key thing. That's what I see. So, okay, I've been able to offload this, I've been able to get support for this, and I'm back in work and I'm managing, and I think that's one of the key things. But I think, okay, one of the if it's okay, just share a little story.
Yeah,
a very recent thing that's happened. One of our lunchtime supervisors was going through a really tough time, and again, sometimes it's we look at our teachers, we look at our leaders, and we can say are we supporting their well-being? But this lady came and she had a really difficult situation going on for her. And, she's been with us for a long time, but hadn't even thought about using education support. And so I said to her, I said, do you know that we've got this service? And it was like news to her. And I'm thinking, but, every year we remind you. But anyway, so we talked through it, and I talked her through, the process and what would happen. And it's confidential and nothing would come back to me. And even down to, the advice that we had from the consultant when Mark first came, he said, that first sentence when you pick up the phone, not everybody's really confident at talking. And what do you say when you first pick up the phone? And one of the things he said, write down that first sentence so that at least, and that will make you make the phone call. Because you don't have to think about what to say. Write down just the first few words, and then, the person on the other end will support you through it. And so she went away and she made the phone call, and she came back and she, kept me apprised of what's going on with her situation. But she was just so grateful for the support from education support, grateful of the fact that the school has paid for this service. She's had counselling support, she's had support from solicitors signposted to people near her. It's done what it needed to do for her, supported her and her family. And so, that for me, that's the proof of the pudding, isn't it?
Yeah.
The proof is in the eating. It's there. She's just like, this service has really helped me and my family deal with this very difficult situation. And that's a number, you know, lots of things. But again, another thing for me, in kind of being a little bit, you know, a vulnerable piece, I have used the service myself. You know, I had a really tough time. My mum passed away just during COVID, and I wasn't dealing with it, and so I had to use the service. I've used the service a couple of times, and so I was able to say to staff, you know, this is something that we're all going through stuff at some point in our lives. I've used the service. Yes, that first sentence might be tricky, but it's there for you. Please use it. I've used it. This person's used it, and so yeah, it's part of what we have as provision. And yeah, I know it works.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And that's all been really interesting to hear. And I think the way you talk about it, you do make it sound so simple, but I know there's so much hard work and effort over, you know, 6-7 years that's gone into this, hasn't it? And it's yes, it's incredible. So thank you very much for sharing all of that. Really appreciated. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you especially Heather for taking the time out of your day, and everyone else. Thank you. So if you have any questions about any of the work we do as an organisation and how we might be able to support you and your staff at your school on any level, please do get in touch, either by email or website. Yes?
Sorry, just to flag, there's just a question in the chat from Jacqueline. Can you tell us a little bit more about the grants service that we provide that staff can apply for? Yes,
thank you very much. Didn't spot that. Yeah, so the grant service is run through our programmes team. In very simple terms, we will provide means-tested financial support as a short-term assistance to get people through difficult financial periods. So covers obviously a raft of areas, various causes of that, but it's designed to give someone that short-term financial bridging support when they're going through the difficult financial time. So that could be people, you know, needing to pay their mortgage, pay their rent, put food on the table, any range of things. And as I said, it's a means-tested grant service run through our programmes team. Crucial thing to mention within that, we can do all of the work we do, including the grant service as well, through the fundraising that we do. So whether that be buying into some of our paid services, such as the EAP, or whether that just be spreading the word and getting people signing up as donors. Again, our website is the place to go to find that. And all the information about the grant service is also on the website.